Hey guys, Matt Jones in Seoul. It's in front of the Gyeongbokgung, the King's Palace here. This gate with the three doors you can see is called Gwanhamun, which means the entrance to the King's Palace. And over the top here we can see a blue roofed building just there called the Blue House, which is the residence of the President. I'm assuming that Park Geun-hye, the President, still resides there while she's awaiting the outcome from the deliberations at the Constitutional Court, where she's currently being stood down temporarily, having been recently impeached. But here is also Gwanhamun Square. You can see down here, this empty avenue is what was full of people with their candles over the last many Saturday nights in Korea. It's quite astounding that this traffic you can see on this busy road was all closed, drawn to a standstill during the protests. But look, tonight I want to talk about something that took place in 1953 on this date, 24th of January. 24th of January. It's part of a series I'm doing called 100 Days to Harvest. This is the 24th day of that. And it's examining the friendship we have with between Australia and Korea. And some way north, back in 1953, a patrol of 31 men from the 3rd Battalion around this time would have just finished lunch, and they would have been receiving their final orders for a patrol they were going to take that night. They stepped off from the patrol at 7 p.m. and they advanced stealthily under the cover of night. It was a moonlit night, very cold. About 2.5 kilometres to their destination, which was a Chinese dug-in position. And their mission was to snatch a Chinese soldier and bring him back for interrogation. This was one of many these patrols that took place once the war entered a static phase. Almost all of them, except for one, was unsuccessful. Most occurred at high cost in terms of casualties to the Australians. So as a strategy, you might consider it have been flawed. Certainly it didn't yield any sort of meaningful result. The information that I'm drawing from comes from a blog post that Olwyn Green, who I introduced you to maybe about 2 weeks ago, wrote. She took her sources from the war diary and the official history for the Korean War. And this story is about a guy called Private Lionel John Terry, Bomber Terry, who was one of those 31 men that went to the hillside where the Chinese were located. As they encountered the Chinese position, it's worth noting. One thing worth noting is you can see some of the snow just around here on the ground with the ice. And while it looks quite fine outside, it's actually a few minutes ago it was minus 14 degrees. It's pretty chilly. I think it's the coldest day on record today in Korea. And those guys didn't have the warmth of the coats that I'm now wearing, and they were carrying steel weapons that would have been really uncomfortable to be wearing on their to hold in their hands. So what happened was they come across this Chinese position, and as they did, they encountered a couple of about 4 Chinese people who challenged them. Those Chinese people were killed in an engagement. And soon they realised that actually they were becoming surrounded and outnumbered, badly outnumbered by the Chinese by about 3 to 1. So they commenced a number of counterattacks against the Chinese as they started to sort of try and reorganise themselves and get out from that position. And they slowly moved themselves back. It was very intense fire from the Chinese. There's a lot of hand-to-hand fighting. that was required to break the engagements they were having. And then just as they got to a point of really needing to extract, one guy, this guy I was mentioning before, Bomber Terry, he ran forward into the Chinese position, throwing grenades, firing his Owen gun. There was about 20 or so Chinese people there who were silenced and pretty much disrupted. And they he was never seen of again. The point of the story is that he was nominated for a Victoria Cross because of that action. This was not recorded in the war diary, and it was not approved because the nomination for the Victoria Cross wasn't witnessed by an officer, which is one of the requirements of a Victoria Cross. The reason he wasn't witnessed by an officer is that Lieutenant Smith, the patrol commander, was killed. Recorded as missing in action, but he was killed during the attack. So there was no officer to make the report. But undoubtedly, as Olwyn Green correctly mentions, his actions allowed the patrol to get back to base. Now that might sound as though it ended well, but it was far from ending well. Of the 31 men, 13 were missing in action, many of whom were killed, but bodies weren't recovered. 10 were wounded, returning back to base, many in stretchers, some walking. So it was a very costly. It was a tragedy, and I want to mention this for three reasons. Firstly, the families of the people who were missing in action, some of whom I've met, still today carry a deep level of consternation because of their grief that they have from their relative who has not returned. They've got no sense of closure, and this is one of the failings of the Australian government, particularly in how we've addressed the Korean War. We haven't yet come to terms with the fact of how we are going to address the missing in action from Korea. There's still a lot more action we can do here in Korea to find bodies of people who have been located. It needs some DNA testing, things like that. Second point is that under the sort of guise of the forgotten war, as the Korean War is often known about, examples like this, the due recognition hasn't been given. So, for example, Bomber Terry was due to receive the Victoria Cross. The fact that he didn't receive the Victoria Cross is maybe a matter of protocol more than anything else. But the fact that no one knows about it, no one speaks about it, is I think is a travesty actually. And just after I arrived in Korea, this trip, I was at a meeting where we were discussing future events for Korea, for Australia and Korea this year. One of those was the conduct of Anzac Day and Anzac Day and Kapyong Day. And these are business figures and members of the embassy who are talking about that, and that's great to see that we're remembering that legacy. But too often it's just that's all it is. It's almost becomes like a barbecue and a celebration. And I remember myself as a veteran once. I just found out that they had an Anzac Day, and I went to seek if I, on the day before Anzac Day, to see if I could come along to a breakfast they had, and I was sort of told, look, I'm sorry, we're fully booked, we can't let you in, basically I found my way into the breakfast, but there were many spare tables that were empty, and it was as though the business people with business interests were catered for, but the veteran community just wasn't looked after. Now that's from my experience. but I know that from Korean War veterans, people who actually fought in the war, their experience is often one of a grievance. So this is not about my experience, but it's I'm reflecting on the reality of it. The third one is really the work that we have got to do, and I think this is really the focus that the Australian government could better have with respect to our veterans in the Korean War. And there's a tour group just over there. I'm going to go around there in a minute so you can have a look, but they're just a bit loud. But there's a photograph I want to show you. In fact, I'm going to go right now. I think it just moved off. And this is an example of why this issue of bomber terror is so badly in neglect. And this is a picture. You can see clearly this guy here. These guys are clearly Australian. This hat badge here looks like the skivvy badge from the Royal Australian Regiment. Almost certainly Australian soldiers. The writing pretty much says that it's American soldiers in Jinju in 1945, in September of 1945. It's astounding. I'm not sure there were Australian forces in Korea at that time, but it's a missing story. I don't actually know. I can't find the history behind this, and I've asked the gallery a number of times here, where is this photograph from? Who are these people? And it's been given to them by a private collector, and this is the information they've got. So, last year in October we had the Minister for Veterans Affairs come to Korea with 8 Korean War veterans. It was a great event, very fitting. Probably a good time also for people to take a lot of photographs, a lot of very exclusive VIP events with people on the ministerial levels. But these things just go unnoticed and unaddressed. Stories like bomber terror are neglected and unknown about, not known about. But we're quite happy to have a barbecue and a couple of sherbets on Anzac Day and Kapyong Day. If we're going to be serious about Australia's war effort in Korea, we've got to lift the game. At the moment, we're just not even close. There's a lot more work to do, and I hope that this is an opportunity to really address that wrong. So I hope that those people listening who are in any way of influence, that we can use this year as a way to better record Australia's contribution in Korea during the Korean War. I'd really like to speak to you more about that too. Food for thought. Thanks, guys.